Hi, I'd like to talk about IBOutlets and view controllers today. Okay. In the past, I was talking about creating a weather app, and this is my layout for my weather app. It's kind of all mocked up here in storyboard. Okay. This area here, this whole thing, it's kind of got a blue outline now, right? This is the view controller. Okay, so this is one view in the program. So when the program loads up, this is one screen of information that can be displayed. And this view controller is tied to a file that has all the code that runs, or creates the actions and things that happen inside this view. And by default, when we created a single view application, Xcode created a single view in storyboard and assigned to that view a view controller. And in that case, it's always the default one is always viewcontroller.swift if your file is a Swift file. So we can see that I've got view controller Swift right here, and this is the code that it gave me, the default code, okay, for that view controller. And I can tell that this viewcontroller.swift is assigned to main storyboard, to this scene in the identity inspector here. So in the upper corner here, when I click on the identity inspector there, you can see that it says class name is view controller. Okay, and this is the name of the file over here, view controller, right? So so that's what ties the two together. Okay, and so when we want to create actions that happen inside the program, what we're going to do, or at least inside this scene of the program, we're going to write all of that code into view controller, and it's going to be responsible for everything that happens here. Now, one of the most important things that we're going to want to do is if we're using storyboard to lay out all of the elements on the scene, or every element in this view graphically, then what we're going to want to do is we're going to need a reference to these elements inside view controller Swift. Okay, so view controller Swift needs to know about these elements. Okay, and to make that happen, what we're going to use is a thing called IBOutlet. Okay, and IBOutlet, IB stands for Interface Builder, which is the precursor to storyboard. So IB kind of refers to storyboard essentially. And an IBOutlet is an element in storyboard that can be referenced in your code, okay? So to make that happen, what we're going to do is this. Let me hide the sidebar here for a moment. And I'm going to switch to the assistant editor here, and I'm going to do it this way this time. I'm going to use the Option key and click on View Controller, and when I do that, it's going to open up the assistant editor and then open up viewcontroller.swift in the assistant editor. So when you Option click on something here, it automatically activates the assistant editor and puts that file in the assistant editor side. Okay, let's move this over a little bit here. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to create some outlets for the elements that are in the scene. Okay, and so I'm using these labels to display the information, and what I want to do is when I load the actual weather data, I want to update the text inside each of these labels to reflect the current weather information, right? So here's what we're going to do. So I'll click on this first one right here, and this is the city name. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to hold the Control key. Okay, so I'm holding the Control key, and then I'm going to drag from the city name, and you can see the city label becomes highlighted, and I'm going to drag into View Controller Swift. Okay, and make sure you don't drag inside one of these functions. The code has to go inside the class here, but outside of these two functions. So I'm going to put it right here. Okay, and when I let go, I'm going to get this little dialog box, and it says connection is type outlet. Okay, the object that we're going to be connected to is view controller, and that's this guy over here, right? View controller Swift. And then we're going to give this outlet a name. So we'll need a name to reference it. So since this is the city name, I'm going to call it, how about city name label? How about like that? And then the label will remind me that this is a UI label. Okay, and it says type is UI label, storage is weak. And we can ignore that stuff and leave it at the default for now. So I'll click OK there, or connect, right? And now you can see here I have IBOutlet, weak var city name label is the name, colon, and this is a UI label type. Okay, and then the exclamation point means it's an optional. We'll talk more about that later. Okay, let's do another one. So the best way to learn this is to repeat it a couple times and practice, right? So this is the weather description right here. So I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'll click on it, hold the control key, drag into the assistant editor here for the view controller, and I'll give this new one a name. So I'll say description label, okay? And then I'll click connect, and now I have the description label. And then I'll just repeat the process. So this is my my temperature label, so I'll drag that into here, and I'll call it temp label. And then this is the minimum temperature and the maximum temperature. Okay, or actually I guess this is the maximum and that's the minimum below it. So let's drag this one in here, control key, right? And we'll call it like max temp label and min temp label. Okay, and then down here I have the date. So let's control drag on this and put it here and say date label. There we go. Okay, and now we're all set. Let's do one other thing. So everything that you create in Interface Builder can have an IBOutlet, okay? I've used UI labels for everything here, but this image right here is actually a UI image view, okay? So it's an image view, and the image view can also have an IBOutlet. I mean, imagine we want to change the picture of the image while the application is running, right? When we get weather information, if it's not raining, if it's snowing or something, I want to change this to a snowing picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this thing, and option, control key, sorry, not option, but control, and drag it in here. And this time you can see it says outlet, view controller, and then it says name, and then the type this time is UI image view, right? But that's okay because, Interface Builder figured that out for us. We don't need to set that. And then I'll give this a name. Let's call it weather image, okay? And there we go. So now we got a UI image view for the weather image. You can also drag from this area too. So if you want to link to something over here, like this background thing right here is a view, and we don't actually need an IBOutlet for that because that's actually automatically connected to view controller. But if you wanted to make an IBOutlet for it, you could drag it like this, and then connect it, give it a name, and click connect, right? So I'm just pointing that out because every once in a while something is kind of hard to click on in here, but you can easily grab it here, right? So you can do that, if I wanted to get the name outlet here, I can click on it and control drag, right? So that's also an option, okay? So anyway, that's how you set up IBOutlets.